Meet the new Audi Q3. This is an SUV that's new, but also not really new. I'll explain why. This is the second generation car that replaces the Gen 1 that was on sale in India all of those years ago. But at the same time, it was revealed globally in 2018. That's 4 years ago. A fairly long time. That said, it's new for India effectively. We've never seen this particular car on our roads before, and it's a super important car for Audi. The Q3, it used to be a bestseller for the brand. Audi tried to bring in the Q2 as their most affordable offering, but it never really caught on in the same way that the Q3 did. So here we are, new engine, new platform, new styling, new interiors. This is pretty much an all-new car. And new cars, they always get me excited. Now before we dive into the review, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Evo India channel and leave a comment down below. How do you think the Q3 will fare against its competitors like the Mercedes-Benz GLA, the Volvo XC40 and the BMW X1? I'd love to hear from you. Right, now before we get to the driving, let's talk about the styling because it's a fair bit removed from the older Q3. Up front, the face is more aggressive, more stylish, more contemporary, and that it would be because this is a newer car. It's very typically Audi. You've got this massive octagonal grille, vertical slats. You wouldn't mistake it for anything else on the road. The headlights, very cool. I really like the DRL signature, and what's worth noting is that these aren't matrix lights, but they are regular LEDs. That said, they are very bright. People get out of your way when you flash at them. Effective. Yeah. Below that, you've got this really aggressive grille design. Something that I really like is the satin finish on the accents. This isn't chrome. It isn't as blingy as the badge over here. It's got a slightly softer finish, and that's really nice. It's not as in your face, not as shouty, but still looks very cool. Overall, I think the face actually looks a lot like the Audi Q8. Tell me if you see it too. I'd love to know. I think it really looks very similar to the Q8, and that is even more obvious when you look at it from the side. The stance that it has is really that of a shrunken Q8. Now, from the side, what's worth noting is you get these 18-inch wheels. You've got a very basic wheel design. I wish the wheels were a little more characterful, but they're neat-looking wheels. Something else that stands out is the fact that this cladding is body colored. You don't get black plastic cladding over here. The body colored cladding really adds a nice touch, makes it look nice and expensive. And you've got this really defined haunch over here. This particular line, it's a very strong line. When you look at the car from the side, it's very noticeable. Gives the car a nice strong stance. And from the rear, again, the design is very sharp, very cool. Just like the front, the lights at the back, very, very nicely done. The DRL signatures, Audi always nails them. There's never a signature which they haven't really nailed. And down here as well, you've got more of that satin finish, which keeps it looking nice and expensive. What's worth talking about also are the dimensions. This car has grown compared to the older car. So it's 96 millimeters longer overall. The wheelbase itself is longer by 77 mm. It's wider as well. It's taller as well. So overall, the Q3 has grown in size, not by much. So on the outside, it doesn't really make a difference, but on the inside, it will. Overall, I think the Q3 is a very nice looking car. It's sharp. It's cool looking. It looks like an expensive SUV, and I think it draws from the Q8 very effectively. Now, let's head inside and see what that's like. Now, talking about the interiors, this is a very familiar place to be if you've been in other Audis recently. Bang in front of me, virtual cockpit, which is pretty much on every single Audi these days. Not that I'm complaining, it's a superb system. It's really good to look at, it's very easy to navigate through, and very easy to use and read when you're on the go. This steering wheel, also very familiar. The controls, very similar to other Audis. And when you look at the dash, this is slightly different from what I've seen on other Audis. You've got this stepped dash design, and up on the top you've got all of the air vents. They're fairly high up, and below that you've got all of your controls. Now the infotainment screen, again a familiar unit. You've got nice touch sensitivity, a lot of functionality in there. You can change your car settings, your media, radio, connect to your phone, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of that. Below that you've got your AC controls. And what I really like is that they're physical AC controls. A lot of the more expensive Audis, they have that touch screen for the AC. And this, I think, was done as a cost-saving measure, but it also has an ergonomic advantage. This is really easy to use, and it also feels really tactile. It does not feel cheap in any way. It feels really expensive, but it's also very easy to use on the go. Below that, you've got a wireless phone charger, you've got your USB Type-C ports, you've got this chunky gear selector, and overall the cabin is very neatly done. It feels expensive, it feels premium. The materials as well, all of it feels very nice. You've got soft touch plastics on here. This faux metallic finish feels nice, though on the lower half of the dash, something like the bottom of the glove box, that is a little scratchy. In terms of storage spaces, space has been actually very effectively used. This tray for the phone, fairly deep. You've got two nice large cup holders. This storage bin in the armrest is actually quite deep. And you've also got fairly large door pockets. You can actually fit two 1-liter bottles in there, which is larger than I thought you would be able to. Overall, it's a very nice cabin. If I had to criticize it in any way, I'd say no ventilated seats. That was something I would have liked to see. And also wireless Android Auto and CarPlay. Now, cars in the 10 lakh rupee range are getting that. It would be nice to see luxury cars in this space also have it. It's a really useful feature once you get accustomed to it. That said, nice cabin to be in. It is a little cramped in that you're close to your occupant in terms of width, but otherwise it feels premium, feels expensive, and when you're behind the wheel, it feels like you're in a luxury car. Now let's move to the back seat. What is this like? In terms of space, I've got a lot more knee room than I did before in the Q3, certainly a lot more than in the Q2. This is not bad. The driving seat set to my driving position, I'm 5'10", so this should give you an idea of how much space the back seat has. In terms of headroom as well, it's a fair amount. Something that's worth noting is you get this panoramic sunroof. It stops a little bit in front of my head, but it's nice and airy. It makes the cabin feel a lot more airy. The seats, they're firm, they hold you well. You've got nice bolstering on the side, and you can actually stretch your feet out in front of the seat in front of you, get some amount of under thigh support. Other things you need to note, there's a central tunnel, quattro, remember, so a third person in the back seat might find it a little uncomfortable. You've got an armrest over here, a fairly large window area. This is a little taller than usual, but it's okay. It's not claustrophobic in any way. Something that's really cool about the Q3 is the fact that this whole bench actually slides. So there's a rail over here, and I can move this in front by 150 mm. And the whole idea being that if I need more boot space, I can move it in front. If I need more leg room, I can move it back. So it gives you some amount of versatility with the Q3. Otherwise, it is a comfortable place to be. Maybe 3 people abreast would be a little cramped, but that aside, no problems here. You can be chauffeur driven in this car if you'd like to be. Alright, now getting behind the wheel of the new Audi Q3. First impressions. Honestly, it feels like a shrunken Q5 or a shrunken Q7. There's a certain sophistication to the Q3 that wasn't there before. It feels very Audi, you know, and the bigger SUVs of Audi have a very characteristic feel in the way they ride, in the way they handle, in the way they sound, in the way they feel, in the way they go and cover distance over the road, and the Q3 has picked up on those characteristics. And I think the reason as to why that has happened is pretty obvious. The Q3 has migrated from its older platform to the MQB platform, and these are characteristics that are very inherent to the MQB platform. So in that sense, the Q3 has moved up in life, and that's a good thing for this little SUV. But let's try and break down that sensation of what an Audi SUV is and try to explain it in the terms of the Q3. Audis have always had good ride quality, and the Q3 it's no different. Now, in terms of the way it drives over regular Indian roads, it's actually pretty good. There's a compliancy to the suspension. It deals with our roads well. It's slightly firm. There's a hint of firmness to it. You will feel the bumps on the road, but at no point is it uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. It soaks things up well. It keeps you cushioned on the inside, and it gives you the sense that, yes, it lets you know what's going on underneath you, but at the same time, it's making sure you're never uncomfortable. Those are on typical bad Indian roads, city roads, all that kind of stuff. When you get out of the highway, planted, it feels so solid, stable, tight down. It's so typically German. You know, we talk about ride quality and stability of the German cars, and this embodies that. You know, it pretty much is the archetype of that sort of dynamics. It just stays planted flat on our highways, can cover ground with incredible ease, and it just feels so solid. I think overall the ride is really well balanced. It does a good job of giving you comfort. It does a good job of feeling really robust, feeling really solid, feeling like a grown-up car. Earlier, the Q3, it didn't feel as grown-up as this one does. This feels like a properly sophisticated SUV. Obviously, it doesn't have the finesse and the sophistication of something like a Q7's air suspension. You need to remember that the Q3, it has steel springs. It doesn't even have dynamic dampers, so it cannot give you the breadth of ability of something like a Q7. But in this one standard setting, it is very competent. And I'll tell you what, that stiffness, that slight firmness in the suspension has translated into excellent handling. I never thought I'd say this about the Q3, but the Q3 has phenomenal handling. It's really good. What really surprised me first of all, is the steering. So get out of auto mode, you take the drive mode selector, put it into dynamic mode, and the steering weighs up. It feels a little sharper. The throttle response obviously improves, but what I'm more interested in is the steering, and it really feels sharp, responsive. You turn the Q3 into a corner and it turns, and it grips. There's so much front end grip, and then when you change direction, it turns again. It's so responsive. There's some proper dynamic ability in here, and it's not like you're very far removed from the driving experience. It's involving, you're sucked into it. You can sense what's going on underneath the car. The steering, it gives you a good sense of what's going on in the front, a good sense of the grip at the front wheels when it starts slipping into understeer. And honestly, that level is reasonably high. You can actually drive this car fairly hard around corners before understeer starts kicking in. It deals with mid-corner bumps really competently. It doesn't get unsettled. It rotates nicely into the corner. And then you've got the quattro system, so exiting the corner, you've got tons of grip. You can just fire it out of corners, just lean on the accelerator, and it will do its thing, figure out where the grip is, and just shoot itself at the horizon. It's really competent that way. So, handling chops, I'm genuinely impressed. It feels sharp, it feels quick, it feels eager to take on roads like these. It doesn't complain at all. It's not like it's saying, hey, take it easy, drive me slower. No, it's saying, give me more. And adding to all of that eagerness is this drivetrain, this 2-liter TSI engine. Now, it's an engine that we're very familiar with. It's in the A4, it was in the Q2, it's all over Skoda, VW cars. It's an engine that's very common in the Volkswagen group at this point of time, particularly in India, since they've switched over to this petrol-only strategy. And how does it feel? Well, it feels familiar. It feels very familiar. First, let's talk numbers. 187 bhp, 320 Nm of torque. Numbers that are par for the course. You've got generous performance. The character of this engine is very enthusiastic. It likes to rev. It likes to be keychoed. It likes to be pulled to the rev line. As long as you're plotting out what the fuel economy is, you can really push it hard. And it enjoys that. It enjoys being driven hard. It's responsive. And it even sounds nice. It's a little enthusiastic engine. It's like a happy little puppy that's constantly barking and saying, let's go, let me off the leash, let's go. The gearbox too, it really favors enthusiastic driving. You've got this 7-speed DCT, quick shifting, you've got the paddles at your fingertips, so when you call for a shift, it's there instantly. And all of these things, they combine to make this Q3 actually a fair bit of fun to drive. I'm genuinely surprised by how well this whole package is coming together, how much fun it is. I came into this review thinking, okay, Q3, it's going to be another comfortable, luxurious entry-level SUV, but no, it's fun. It's compact, small wheelbase, nimble, just feels so on it all the time. But you're also probably wondering if it can do luxury car duties, and honestly it can. You know, when you take it easy, just dial back the drive modes to comfort. You've got a total of 7 drive modes. It's very quiet, calm, collected. The steering loosens up. It's much lighter than before. Less effort to turn it around, so navigating through the city and stuff will be easier. The throttle response, it dulls down. The gearbox doesn't hold gears as long, not as snappy, so everything just feels a lot calmer. And if you want to just cruise along, relax, the Q3 will do that too. It's more than willing to just take it easy and be a luxury car. You've got a car that you would like to live with every day. Now, I know at the start of this video I said that it's a 4-year-old car internationally, but it doesn't feel that way right now. You know, it does not feel old. It looks fresh from the outside, it feels fresh from the inside, and it drives really well. So there's really nothing to fault in that respect. You cannot point a finger and say, hey, why are you giving us an outdated car? Because it doesn't feel outdated. Sure, it could have come to our shows early, and it should have, considering how important this model is for Audi India, but it's here now. Make the most of it. Now the last piece of the puzzle is the price. The Audi Q3, it costs rupees 50.4 lakhs ex-showroom for this top-of-the-line technology trim. That is expensive. To give you some perspective, the GLA, the top-of-the-line trim with the diesel engine, 4MATIC, all of that, 1.5 lakh rupees cheaper than this. The X1, the XC40, they are around 5 lakhs cheaper than this Q3. So this is expensive. Value for money, that's not the Q3's forte. But there is no denying its competence. It does so much, so well. The luxury car experience, the thrill of driving, it delivers on all of those fronts. It feels like an expensive car, and there's no taking that away from the Q3. To make sense of the Q3, I'm going to have to throw back to what I said earlier. The Q3, it feels a lot like the Q5, a lot like the Q7, but shrunken down into a compact package. It feels like a more expensive SUV in a small footprint, and that's not something you can say for all of the other SUVs in this class. That is where its strengths lie.